Hello Tubesters, it's Gav and welcome to the first part in the Warwickshire Yeomanry build and paint. What you're about to see is not very exciting. it's just a downward view of the table. I've not done... I did try and do a video where I'm actually cleaning the parts and, you know, literally on camera. It just I was all over the shop. You know, we've all done it. I look up and find that I'm cleaning a part way off to the left and the camera's just looking at nothing. That's not what you want to see. Not that you really want to see a figure being cleaned anyway, but I just wanted to show, for anybody that hasn't done resin figures before, just how I do it. There's lots of other ways of doing it, I'm quite sure. This is just how Gav does it. So we'll go down to the bench. We'll see the progress that I've just gone through different stages after I've done it and just showing you, like, well, this is how I've cut this off, and also if there's any little blemishes and things on the figure that I've come across since I've started cleaning it. At the moment we're at the stage where I've decided to leave the head off for the next, well, this is the next day. I filmed it last night. I'm going to sand all this part of the horse. I've filled it with milliput, and that has been smoothed over with IPA alcohol. It's IPA it's called, isn't it? I find that works a lot better. It evaporates quicker, and yeah, it's just basic milliput. But I'll go through with that when I do the how do you fill your horse video, which I'll be filming in a while. So, yep, join me at the bench, guys. So it's nothing massively edificating. That's another one of Gav's words. But it'll just give you an idea on how I prep a figure up, and especially a figure that, like this horse, I've never done mounted figures in resin before, so it's new to me. Thanks a lot for your indulgence. Thanks for taking a look at the video, and hopefully we'll see some more progress in the next up and coming days. Cheers. Right guys, thanks for joining me at the bench. I've just scrapped a load of cleaning video because it's just not working. One day I'm going to sort this out. I don't know how I will sort it, but all I can do is to give you the half-soaked type of videos that I do, and you'll just have to make the best of them, I'm afraid. As you can see, we've got a fair bit of cleaning done. I've got my mask off for the moment because hopefully all this resin dust. So that's our resin dust. You don't want to be breathing that stuff in, guys. The wet towel has caught a lot of it. I actually try where possible to use scalpel, where are we? Here we are, and flake stuff away if possible. But when you've got large casting blocks like this, as you can see, I've had to cut that through with a razor saw. This was attached to, let's get back a bit so you can actually see. This piece of wire is going to be the only, this is actually built into the model itself. I presume it travels up the leg, and it's going to be the only attachment to the base, so we needed to keep that in, and it does say in the instructions, so it would have gone through here. So it gone through that hole there, in as you can see. That was attached to, I've got a slight flat point underneath there, classic me, but when you've got casting blocks like that, it really is hard to get much more definition. I am looking into getting the more flexible razor saws, and hopefully you know, I'm able to get a bit more of a bevel on things, whereas these tend to be very rigid, and they can only really cut a straight line. So we need that intact, and that's going to be obviously put into our base as our only point of contact with the ground. Let me see, yeah, we've got a couple of pinholes. Let me get me a pointy stick if we can find one. We've got a pinhole there, or an air hole, whatever you want to call it. I just always call them pinholes. Now these haven't obviously got any type of pin marks to obviously lock the halves together. I'm actually debating just to do that, actually maybe drill in a couple of small pinholes, put some wire in. As I say, I've never worked on a resin horse before or anything, so it's all a bit of a learning curve. when you do cut the plugs off these, as you're cutting them, hold them as close to the hoof as you can, so you're not obviously flexing. This is quite strong actually, but yeah, you know, you don't want to be snapping the hoof off and have to try and wonder how you're going to glue it back on. So I'm debating whether to put a couple of little pins in that just to help locate it. As you can see, there's going to be a fair bit of filling involved, and I'm debating whether, I mean, I'm obviously going to clean any head, all the other bits of resin up, but I won't attach I won't start attaching the head until I've filled everything else on the body, just to make it easier to reach and get to. There's another one. Is that the same one? That might be the same one. There's two actually that I found, and for the life of me I can't find the other one. But yeah, I found two small pinholes in it, but again, scrape over with a bit of filler and they'll disappear. But some nice texture on the horse itself. There's a couple more bits I've still got to clean up there. As you can see, there's a bit of a line there that that the dust has picked up. But yeah, it's coming together fine. I say I've tried to do videos of me filing and I'm off centre, I'm off camera. It's just easier to explain it after the fact. You know, it's not hard to say, well, here's your casting plug, cut it off. You know, it's you're not going to learn anything any more than me just telling you. So that's our body almost done. So I've just got a couple more minutes on the clean up of that, and then we'll go through this packet here, which looks to be most of the rider, saddle and the head itself. So I'll see you in a bit. Right guys, we're on to the next stage, which is very carefully, this is going to be fun, cutting this casting plug from the saddle blankets and the saddle itself. So that will obviously, if this was the horse, I've probably got it round the wrong way. I have no idea. No, it'd be from the thin end, wouldn't it, Gav? Come on, let's be sensible. I think it'll go on like that. So we've got to try and remove this casting plug first. I think I will remove these two end pieces. Now I'm not going to get the razor saw obviously in sideways, so I'm probably going to have to cut at an angle and then pare it away with my scalpel. The bottom actually seems alright. You'd think actually they'd put the casting plug on the bottom, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's too simplistic for me, I don't know. But where, you know, yes, it still needs to sit smooth to the horse's back, but it might not have had to make such a mess. But then again, saying that, well, no, I was going to say that the rider sat on it, but he's not really, is he? Because he's actually stood up in the stirrups. But anyway, that's what we've got to do on that one. We've got a bit of light flash on the main legs and torso. A bit of flash and mould lines under the armpit and on the bandolier here. They didn't wear the webbing, they wear bandolier. And then obviously we've got the usual casting blocks that you get on most figures. Again, we'll use our razor saw. And again, you know, try do your best. Sometimes you can actually get, if you get yourself like, I bet you haven't even got one on, oh I don't. If you put an ice lolly stick, and you can either tape it to the ice lolly stick, just for extra strength. But I do find, once you've got a handle on how something is, flexibility wise, I think this one's going to be okay. Famous last words, but I think we'll be able to just get it tight in with your fingertips and cut away. Again, what I normally do as well is dip my finger in some water and just splot some water around. There is some mould lines on the puttees as well. These are called puttees, and they wind around the legs. So yeah, that's our next bit. And then we've also got our horse's head. Very nice. Again, spare bandolier. We've got a casting plug right on the mouth muzzle. Is it muzzle on a horse? I'm terrified of horses. So I don't get too close to them. And then we've got a casting block here as well. So I've got a feeling it'll be interesting to see how that sits when it actually sits on the actual horse itself. As I say, don't think I'm knocking the figure when I say casting block here or there. You know, it's you know, I've got some experience obviously in doing you know, infantry figures and things like that. But you know, obviously I'm not quite sure how this will go together. It's my first large scale type horse and rider, and I did get this also to get some experience. So yeah, next time we see this, hopefully I'll have some good news that she's all cleaned up and majority of it's moved on, mould lines removed and that. As I say, I'm not 100% sure yet whether we oops, I might well drill a couple of pins, put a couple of pins in here, just locating pins, as if it's like on a model. Well, it is a model really, isn't it? But you know, it's a bit like a short run kit on an aircraft, say. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that head sits on that shoulders. But I may actually, as I say, fill all the body before I actually mount the head, and start filling that separately. As I say, I'm new to this side of things, so it's really, you know, suck it and see. Right, I'll catch you later. Right guys, I shall make this as quick as I can, as the person next door is on their running machine. No sensibilities for people making videos. Right, I've removed that plug. It was fairly easy to do. I did cut the two ends off first, and then went in at an angle with the razor saw one side and then the other, leaving a small stub, which I then pared away with the scalpel, and then when it was low enough I sanded it. As I say, I try, although there's resin on this wet paper towel everywhere, but I do try and keep the sanding to a minimum. The only thing I'd suggest is, we have a pinhole there as well, and maybe one on the other side. I can't. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it's coming through. So we've got one there, and I think we've got one small one there as well to fill. I would suggest to you that whether you use a scalpel, or if you have got one of those ultra fine razor saws, which I have to get, is just maybe put a bit more definition to, because you had a casting plug straight across there. So just put that you know, the strapping, webbing, whatever you want to call it, for the blanket there, and also at the back there I have used my scalpel to trouble it out a bit, but it probably needs a bit more work done to it yet. But that's that. Horse's head. We got a casting block under there. Again, I don't think that'll be seen now when it's done. There was one very small, like just a little bit of roughness on the horse's muzzle, lip, whatever you want to call it there. Obviously R1 underneath. Now, although that's not completely gone, as you can see, when I put the horse roughly together, you just know when I actually do get to come to do this now, nothing will fit. But I think what helps is the bandolier will cover any sins that you've got there. I do believe you might need to do a tiny bit of filling underneath, but on the whole that bandolier will sit there nice. So that's obviously a nice cover-up job there. And our torso, there might be that bit's left. I've left that bit there because I didn't want to dig any more out on his webbing if I could, because I believe there's something going to be stuck on there. I'm just not 100%. Let's see if we get a bit closer. I couldn't find any pinholes or anything on the guy himself, not so far anyway. Remove the casting plugs there, the stirrups. Just be very careful of these spurs. I have to think of the word there then. You know, they stick out a bit, and they are only resin, but it's quite a tough resin. It's good. It's good in that score. So next one is going to be all the little bits and pieces, which is head, bayonets, feed bags. That's where the oats and that will go, I'd imagine. Arms and bread bag. And we've also got, tail, sabre, carbine, Lee Enfield carbine, and we've got our sword arm, very, very dainty sword. I mean, you can see daylight through that almost. It almost seems too thin. Probably not, it's probably just me, but I do wish manufacturers would. That's one thing I've come up. Some do it and some don't, but I would like to see them put some cardboard in there and stick it down just to keep. I mean, this is actually the straightest sword I've actually seen. I mean, it's going to need some cleanup, so whether it'll actually stay without being snapped, I don't know. But you can see there's a lot of fine flash all over that. So yeah, we shall see. Right, guys, just the last bit to show you now of the cleanup process anyway. Let's have a look. What did I come across? I've cleaned up the head. Hang on. There's our face. Now, as you can see here, there's not a great amount of material there. It was very, very see-through. However, this curtain for the sun goes across it like that. So it may be a case of I may have to put a bit of plasticard or something, and I've got some very thin plasticard, or I'll stick it on and then turn the head over and maybe fill underneath it if it's going to be seen. But it was wafer thin, and it just, you know, that was how it is really. What else? Oh, the sword, obviously he's got the sabre in his hand, so you'll need to cut this off. I presume it's for you know, maybe a standard other figures. I've got another figure coming actually from Tommy's War, hopefully, just a foot figure. But yeah, you'll need to cut the sabre, you know, in case you'll notice it, but just in case you forget. Again, the sabre is extremely thin. There's a very slight kink in it. Let's see. I'm undecided. If you remember on the 54mm Highland figure, which, by the way, I've got a lot of plinths coming in the next couple of days, and then that figure will be finished off and you'll see him finally. But anyway, I did make that out of plastic card. I thought this, I'd probably go with this one, the broadsword type thing that I did with the 54mm Highlander. I did make a fairly decent job, but this is quite thin, and I'm just worried that trying to get it at that scale, the only thing I'd probably be able to do with plasticard is probably going to make it overscale. But so I think we're going to go with that. It's not horrible. I might change my mind as usual. Just be careful. I believe that this is part of the, obviously because it goes round here, so I wouldn't go cutting that off. Don't make a mistake and take that off, because it's part of the whatever the Lee Enfield's going into, whatever you call that. I think that's about it really. So, oh, I did the tail as well, very slightly flat on the top. I think that'll come up all right. I've put a hole in it because I'm going to probably put a little pin in that just to, you know, save it dropping off. That would be quite embarrassing. So thanks for joining me on the cleanup process. What will happen with these guys now is they'll get washed off in some warm soapy water, get rid of the last bit of, obviously, all the particles of resin that's on it. Again, the handy thing is with these wet towels are you then just fold them in on themselves, and you get rid of all that mess in one go. I mean, I'm looking round, I can't say you're never going to have resin particles floating around, but the idea is it's no point just doing them on a workbench and dropping them dry onto your workbench, because the particles will get into your, you know, I've got paint bottles on my desk and goodness knows what else, and it's just easier with this wet towel and keeping your tools, you know, just dropping some water on your tools, on the figure, whatever you're cutting. It really does cut that resin down quite a lot. So next time you see this or the next video, I'm hoping that I'll either have it glued together and all filled, or glued together and partially filled. I'm probably going to be doing the rider off the off the horse. He will be, obviously, as I say, he's not going to be sat on the horse. He's actually in the classical position of, I suppose they're obviously trained this way of standing up in the stirrups and running poor unfortunate foot soldier through with his sabre. So, but I'll probably still do that separately, but obviously glued together. And also obviously fill the odds. So we've come across probably about four pinholes. Is that good? Is that bad? I've had resin busts and figures with absolutely 0 pinholes in, and I've had the same with a lot more than I've got here. So I'm not fussed about that. It's not overflowing with. If there were loads of bobbles that you'd have to drill out and then refill, I'd be a bit upset. But 2 or 3. That doesn't faze me. So catch you again soon, guys, on another update video on this. So this is the Remembrance Day or Remembrance build. It's to take place of the people can't go on the Remembrance Day Sunday marches and just remembrance, just gathering around the war memorials and that. Military Modeller Paul came up. That's the Military Modeller Paul's channel. He came up with this idea of doing something. It doesn't, you know, himself and Greg Riley are doing 1:35 scale Churchill tanks, and you know, I haven't even told him I'm doing this. Hopefully he finds the video. But yeah, so if you feel like you want to do something, I'm quite sure Paul would love it. You know, if you're a war games painter and you want to just paint, you know, a war games figure or figures. If you're you know, any nation, whatever, you know, it's as I say, I think Paul's come up with a cracking idea, and I thank him for putting this on. As I say, it's not a traditional group build in the sense of, you know, he's not taking photographs from you. He's, you know, it really is just a case of just say that's why you're doing it. He's not after publicity for his own channel. It's just a case of just shout it up that that's what you're doing, and yeah, the more the merrier. So take care of yourselves, guys, and we'll catch each other very soon. Cheers.